Hello, it's Ruby, and today I'm going to be showing you how I make study day timetables and basically giving you some advice on making timetables for really long productive study days. During exam season, whilst we're on study leave, we as students do take entire days and dedicate them to studying, and I get loads of people messaging me asking how I actually make these timetables that I would then do my really long study days to. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can make one of these, and I'll also be providing a template. There is a link to download in the description box, but I just really hope that this video is helpful and that it was worth the wait, because I've been getting requests to make this video for like 3 or 4 years. Okay, so before we get started, I want to talk about the benefits of making a study timetable, and there are 3 main benefits which I have come to realize. Number 1, it gives you less choice. If we've got the choice to do something easy and do something more difficult, we naturally sway towards doing something which does require less brain power. Having a timetable gives you less choice in what you're doing, so if you've written down that you're going to do an essay from this time till that time, you're more likely to do it than if you just write it down and say flippantly, I'm going to do this at some point today. So then number 2, Parkinson's law states that a task will elongate to fit the length of time that you give it. So for example, if I set myself a task for half an hour, then I will take half an hour. If I said, oh, you can take as much time as you need, I might end up spending a lot longer because I think that I have more time to film. And number 3, you don't set unrealistic goals for yourself, which can be really, really damaging. If I don't use a timetable and I just write a to-do list, I will really be overly ambitious, and I'll set so many tasks that I just literally cannot get done in the space of one day. And then when you don't get these done, you feel demotivated and you feel like you haven't been successful, even if you've been studying a lot and you've got a lot done. So the first thing that I will do when making a timetable is refer to / make my master to-do list. Basically, one thing which I have been quite vocal about in the last year is that I like to use master to-do lists. All of my tasks will be put on one single piece of paper, and as you can see, this list separates it into work, education, chores, health, other, and social. So when starting planning my study day, which will be the night before, I will fill out my master to-do list. The first step is writing your to-do list. So what I really recommend doing is making sure that you have at least one thing in each of these sections, because you don't want to go the whole day without doing something social or doing something to do with your health. Yeah, first step is to fill out this to-do list. So then once you've got your master to-do list, the next thing to do is go through and mark your trickiest tasks, the most daunting tasks. So that's usually essays, that's usually big research tasks. My head of 6th last year called them frogs and banisters. So frogs are the really big daunting tasks, and then banisters are the small tasks which you might be looking forward to that are a bit easier. Yeah, so just make a note of which tasks are the hardest ones, and you also want to make a note of the tasks which will take the longest length of time. So on the master to-do list, there is a section for due, so instead you can use the due section to write in the length of time you think it will take. So for example, I'm gonna write minutes in brackets there, and then I'm gonna say this is gonna take 20, 40, 30. So we've now sorted our tasks. The next step is to actually make your timetable. So there are 2 different ways that you can do this. This is the first way of doing it, which is where you basically easily make your timetable yourself. And then this is the second one, where I've actually put together a template for you to just fill in if you weren't entirely sure the order of which you wanted to do your tasks. So we're going through the first way of doing it, which is where you actually make the timetable completely yourself from scratch, and this is better because it's more tailored to you as a student and what works for you. So the next thing to do is something which is going to be very different for each kind of person. You want to determine the times where you work best in the day and the times which you work worst in the day. So personally for me, I work really well in the early mornings and the evenings, and so these are the times where I will put my most tricky tasks and the tasks which require the most brain power. If you can, I really recommend doing the most daunting tasks in the morning, because then you end up feeling more productive and motivated for the rest of the day. So one thing which I find is that I don't work well in the afternoon, and this is very common. This is actually something that the Greeks, ancient Greeks, picked up on. I don't know the word for it. I read it somewhere and I can't seem to find it anywhere. If anyone does know the word, please let me know, because I just can't find it anywhere. I've been trying to find it. The ancient Greeks actually had a word for that mid-afternoon slump that you get, where you just feel less motivated and you're more existential, you're just not as focused. I really don't recommend using the afternoon time to do your most intense revision. What I have shown on the templates, which I've done, is taking off like a 2-hour lunch break. So when you're making the timetable, what I recommend doing is changing between different types of revision, so going from active to passive revision to note-taking to research, and switching this up because it allows you to stay more motivated and you don't get bored with one particular type, and it also means that you get the more passive revision. You actually find time for it and you don't become overwhelmed by it, because I find that if I sit and take notes for 3 hours, I just really find myself not enjoying studying at all. That's not how it has to be. If you switch to doing something more active, like an essay or an essay plan or a practice paper in between your note taking, then you'll find that you're more refreshed and more able to get back on with note taking when you come back to it. Another thing which I really recommend doing when you have timetables is to leave room for breaks and overflow if you think you'll need them. On the timetable template which I provided, you will see that there is a section for optional breaks in a task which is a daunting task, which is like an hour, 2-hour long task, and this just means that you give yourself breathing space and you don't feel so restricted by the task. I won't always end up using these optional breaks, and I really don't encourage you using it for the sake of using it. Treat breaks as a time to recharge, not as a necessary reward for studying. But the Sawyer effect suggests that if you turn breaks into rewards for studying, then that in itself takes away from the intrinsic worth of the activity that you're taking a break from. What you want to do is turn your studying into fun, something enjoyable, and giving yourself optional breaks as opposed to necessary breaks is a really good way to do this. However, having said that, I do recommend scheduling some necessary breaks as well, but I would recommend these being other tasks from other sections of your to-do list, so things like chores and social. You might want to schedule some exercise as a necessary break. This is going to be refreshing, it's going to recharge you, and then use your lunch break as your kind of proper, that's like time for you. Another thing that I would recommend is waking up half an hour to 2 hours earlier than you usually would on a study day. This doesn't mean that you have to start studying straight away as soon as you wake up, but it gives you more time to play with. You just end up feeling more productive from the beginning of the day, which means that you're going to work more effectively the whole way through the day. Yeah, so that are my top tips for making a timetable. I will leave both of the printables linked down below in the description. It will take you to my website where you can download these if you are interested in making your timetable using these templates. But I hope that you found this video helpful, and I hope that you have a productive week.